So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
This is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. We are on the air for the first time since all the new changes, AEW's debut, the new Monday Night Raw, the new SmackDown set, NXT going against AEW, and of course, Hell in a Cell just the other night. We're coming to you following Monday Night Raw, the second brand new Monday Night Raw with the new set. And I think this edition of the Heel to the Face podcast, that's probably where we're going to start things off. We're joined as always with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself on Twitter and Instagram at KRockJared, and the show on Twitter at Heel to the Face. We start off with last night's Monday Night Raw, and probably the most notable thing from Monday Night Raw last night was the fact that they were trying to get away from what happened at Hell in a Cell very, very much because, well, nothing happened on Monday Night Raw when it comes to where Hell in a Cell let us off on Sunday night. We had the whole Tyson Fury, Braun Strowman thing. We all knew where that was going. But most notably, we all tuned into Monday Night Raw to be like, are you going to give us some sort of explanation of what happened at Hell in a Cell? And they did not. And that...
No, not at all.
Hell in a Cell, probably... Now, we all disagree on many things. Obviously, Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, for example, a huge rating, 4 million people watched it. Brock Lesnar became champion. I'm super happy. I know a lot of people are pissed. But I think the one thing we can agree on is that Hell in a Cell ending was awful. I don't know anyone who likes that. I mean, there's probably not a lot of people who like Brock Lesnar, but there's nobody who likes what happened at Hell in a Cell on Sunday night. If you don't know what happened at Hell in a Cell, the match ended in what seemed to be a disqualification. The referee stopped the match. Or as X-Pac said on the official WWE watch-along YouTube thing, DQ in Hell in a Cell? What's that about?
Yeah. And
when your WWE employees are like, what's going on?
Yeah, that wasn't good. It was not a good look. I don't think it helps either superstar one way or the other. I think
it doesn't help the brand. Obviously, a lot of people chanting AEW after that happened,
and they're going. You can hear the fans going bullshit. It was not good. It was. I mean, the show itself wasn't bad though.
No, the women's Hell in a Cell match, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, was great.
Yeah, I liked some of the spots they did. I liked the one spot where Becky put Sasha, it was like a kendo stick chair thing on the side of the cage.
Yes.
That was a cool spot.
Had her sit up on a little pedestal, yes.
That was a fun spot. I mean, overall, I thought it was a decent show.
A lot of matches were, as we talked about prior to Hell in a Cell, because of Fox and SmackDown, a lot of last minute just kind of throw in there. It felt kind of like a Monday Night Raw where you didn't really have an entire card. A lot of matches were just made, I think, 2 hours before the show. I saw on the Twitter account that there's like 4 new matches made for Hell in a Cell. So the pay-per-view didn't come at the most opportune time because they were treating SmackDown like a pay-per-view. So that didn't help out much. But overall, for what they had coming off that huge SmackDown, a decent card. But we talked about this with Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins and what they were going to do and how, Bray Wyatt shouldn't have been in this situation, and they found themselves against a rock and a hard place putting him there.
And I have to say, for the record, go back on the tape. Didn't I say it was probably going to be a no DQ somehow in Hell in a Cell? You're like, wait, there's no DQs in Hell in a Cell. So I want to say I was accurate on that one. I did say that on the previous episode that's what's going to happen, because I figured Rollins was going to still keep the title, and I thought Bray was going to look good afterwards. And let's be honest, it wasn't a good look. I thought it was poor booking.
What I was thinking throughout the match, because again, wondering if they're not going to give Bray the belt, how are they going to make him look good? And I thought we were going to have some sort of interruption from somebody. I thought there was going to be some sort of run-in. Maybe someone comes from under the ring. We've seen it before in Hell in a Cell. A good example of that is the first ever Hell in a Cell. How did Shawn Michaels leave against Undertaker still with the belt? Undertaker, is the man of Hell in a Cell. How did Shawn Michaels leave with the belt? The debut of Kane. Came in and distracted things. So we've seen that before when it comes to how do you make someone still look good without, essentially having him look up at the lights. Unfortunately, this was not the way to do that. And if they knew that this was the way to do that, or this is what they were going to do, they should have just kept Bray Wyatt out of the title picture.
Yeah, they should. I mean, honestly, you're right. They should have left him completely out. They should just kept building this aura, this character. Because I mean, to me, like Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, that was must see TV. I mean, the Funhouse, that was good stuff. I mean, that's some of the honestly, anytime I tune in, that's what I'm trying to look for. I want to see what's he going to say next. What creepy thing is he going to do now? So I'm curious to see what WWE is going to do, not only, more importantly with The Fiend, but also with Seth Rollins, figuring out, okay, what are we doing with this?
They kept both of them right off television on Monday Night Raw. I mean, they were all about making it so, I mean, WWE, at least they acknowledged, in retrospect, they obviously acknowledged what happened. It wasn't a coincidence that your Universal Champion and the guy who challenged it, well, I heard Bray Wyatt might have been hurt, but either way, I mean, it took a good 45 minutes of that show before they even mentioned that match happened. I mean, it all led off with last week on Monday Night Raw, Rusev and Bobby Lashley and Lana, and then that's how the show led off. That's how, I mean, the show, normally after a pay-per-view, which I found was strange, normally after a pay-per-view tune in the Monday Night Raw, the opening video package is last night's pay-per-view. And instead it was last Monday in the main event on Raw.
that was very interesting.
Like, pretended the pay-per-view didn't exist until then the women's match got mentioned, and then that's when it existed. But they didn't mention that Universal Championship match until far in the show, and when they did, it was just a quick highlight package. It wasn't Seth Rollins coming out. I mean, normally after a pay-per-view, Seth Rollins, I mean, that'd be the first music you'd hear.
Oh, of course. That's the first thing you would hear after a pay-per-view.
But I mean, they just kept with the Rusev Bobby Lashley storyline. So they knew they effed up on that whole ending.
Oh, of course they did. But also, I mean, to your point, I would say this. This whole Bobby Lashley, Rusev, and Lana situation, this is fantastic, by the way. This is good stuff.
As WWE Creative Humor said on their Twitter account, I mean, that's the Attitude. I mean, people always have this fascination about the Attitude Era, wanting to bring back the Attitude Era. That's it. That's the Attitude Era, folks. I mean, it's not just all the great highlights that people talk about when it comes to, DX and The Undertaker and Stone Cold. I mean, it's things like we saw.
I will say this.
Like that, a little uncomfortable, but that's the Attitude Era.
You knew it was a 90s era, late 90s, early 2000s era, Attitude Era, style, promo and everything. And what do you call it? Promo, I guess, with the whole deal, the whole storyline, I would say. My wife is a casual fan of WWE, and she's like, what are we, going back to the 90s? I'm like, yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. If somebody who's a casual fan like her says, "Oh, this is '90s," then obviously, it triggers some of those people. They're like, "Oh, they're trying to bring back some of the Attitude Era, stuff." I thought it was interesting. This came out of left field, by the way. Like this whole Rusev.
Yeah, I mean,
because
as of last week, first off, Rusev was off television, and then Rusev randomly came back. And the whole thing about what's going on at home, that was mentioned, I think, right before his match. I mean, there was as Charlie Caruso said in the interview prior to his championship match last Monday night on Raw, he said, everyone's asking, where's Lana? And nobody was actually asking that because Rusev just came back earlier that night. Yeah. So no one was already asking, where's Lana? We were just getting used to the fact that he came back. Yeah. So they literally just coerced that whole storyline from him making his return earlier in the night into, at the end of the night, Bobby Lashley and Lana doing that thing. So, I mean, this all came out of left field. This all happened within 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. It's a very intriguing storyline right now. I'm kind of curious. I do like this new edge of Rusev right now. I do like what he did. I like what he did to Randy Orton and Baron Corbin, on this last night's show. It was cool because he had this edge to him. Like, he wasn't like the playful Rusev Day, even though the fans are still saying Rusev Day, of course, because I mean, he's still he's still over with the fans, I feel. But I like this new edge. I like the new attitude. I'm kind of curious what this is going to do for, Bobby Lashley and Lana going forward. It's a very interesting storyline. It's one of the few storylines right now that I'm like, okay, what's the next thing?
So One thing that was probably awesome this week, and obviously it stinks that the week kind of ended. Hell in a Cell, I guess, was the conclusion of a full week from the brand new Monday Night Raw set all the way to Hell in a Cell. It stinks that the week kind of ended with such a down note, obviously the DQ finish or the knockout finish.
That sucked.
But either way, probably the highlight of the entire week was maybe for me Wednesday night, or maybe for you as well, the idea of NXT, AEW head to head. I mean, 2 live shows going at it. I mean, Tony Schiavone on one team.
I know, cool.
Mauro Ranallo on the other. I mean, Tony Schiavone, I think, really brings it back. I mean, I love Jim Ross, but I think Tony Schiavone on my television and tuning into that really gave me those nostalgic feelings again.
It was flashbacks to the Nitro era. That's
I mean, and a
stuff.
full crowd. I mean, this wasn't like Impact. This wasn't Spike TV. This wasn't like a Ring of Honor style. I mean, that was a full sold out arena on one aspect that was a non WWE crowd, and Tony Schiavone making the announcing, and then you have NXT on the other network, and 2 million overall. It was 1.4 million watched AEW, 800,000 watched NXT. I think the big thing is WWE sent out a congratulations to AEW.
I saw that. Interesting. Yeah.
Chris Jericho kind of said, you're the one that made this a rivalry. You know what I mean? That kind of, he kind of threw some stuff back. But most importantly, I think what needs to happen here, and I think everyone loves to look at it as a Wednesday Night War, but for both companies, you shouldn't be looking at it like that. You should just be doing what you do best. AEW just needs to go out there and do AEW's thing, and WWE needs to just go out there and do WWE's thing.
Yeah, NXT just needs to be NXT.
Because here's the thing. 800,000 people watch NXT, and that, as we've talked about it before, that's still a win for WWE because that's 800,000 people who didn't watch AEW.
Yeah, and to me that sounds like more WWE, fans over there's going to be a lot of WWE. I would say it's not maybe a lot. I mean, obviously there was a decent amount, but there's going to be a portion of that WWE base that AEW is never going to get because they're going to be WWE narcs all the way through. They're going to be,
and a big example of that is let's say AEW got all of 800,000 people for NXT and their 1.4 million and got over 2 million. That's still only half of what SmackDown got on Friday night, and SmackDown's only half of the 2 main shows of WWE. And just one of WWE's shows got 4 million viewers on Friday night. So 4 million viewers for that, 2 million viewers for Raw. So essentially 6 million people watch Raw and SmackDown this week.
Yeah.
And AEW got 1.4 million.
That's still, that's still a good share, though.
You still got to wait. Yeah. So, but the point is WWE just needs to stick to WWE. They need to not worry about this war because, they still have a long way to go. And if anything, if we talked about before, this has only just made everything better. Obviously, Fox and AEW together, I think, have kind of made WWE put their, foot to the fire. I don't want to just say it's Fox, but I think the WWE was starting to slip a little bit more than just Fox. So it's AEW and Fox, I want to say, a good mix of why SmackDown looked like SmackDown on Friday night.
Yeah, it was
why
good.
Raw looked like Raw.
There's a little extra. It's a little extra kick for the WWE. I think it's what they needed.
Yes, and it might be AEW's reason why WWE is pyro. I know obviously everyone's going to say Fox, but it's
a combination. I feel
it was a combination because the ratings were starting to slip about 1 year ago, and they were starting to slip because of reasons like AEW and them having an alternative. So the ratings were starting to slip, and that's when then Fox came in and said we can't have these ratings slip. So it's a combination of that, why WWE stepping up their game. And talking about that SmackDown Friday night, 4 million people watched. Felt like a pay-per-view. I'm curious, just like AEW, I'm curious to see how they're going to respond because AEW, great show, but that was show number 1.
And technically it's the same thing for WWE SmackDown on Friday Night SmackDown.
Yeah, that was show number 1.
Show number 1 on Fox on Friday night. So
yeah, you're not gonna have The Rock every week.
Yeah, you're not gonna have The Rock. You're not gonna have these big names.
Lesnar versus Kofi Kingston for the championship. You're not gonna have a ladder match, pay-per-view style every week.
Here's the thing, and both have work to do. It's at the end of the day, you can hit these nice numbers once in a while, but if you hit it consistently, that's where you really win the if they want to consider it the Wednesday Night War, which I don't consider it anything at this point, just give it to us. Because here's the nice thing: the difference between the Monday Night War and this quote unquote maybe Wednesday Night War is, here's the thing: not everybody's missing out on one or the other because you have DVR.
Yes.
Because I'll be honest with you, I watched AEW and then I watched NXT the next morning. So I already had my coverage from Wednesday. I had it all done, watched by 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. So it was perfect. I mean, I had everything done. Both shows were good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool to see Jack Swagger.
Yes.
Good to see him. I think WWE really missed out on him. Honestly, I think he would bring a little extra kick to WWE at this point. I think it's an excellent get for AEW. He's kind of, and I say this kind of, don't at me on Twitter for this. He's kind of like AEW is kind of Brock Lesnar at this point. Kind of. Because he has the MMA background. He's not the main attraction like Brock, but he has the MMA background. By the way, he had a better record in MMA, if I'm not mistaken, compared to Brock Lesnar. So he's kind of, I think maybe AEW might be kind of using him in that way. They might not once in a while, but they're going to use him as the bruiser of this whole entity we have going on, this whole group. That was cool. It was good to see Moxley was there. The whole show itself was great.
It was a good show overall. I mean, it felt big time.
Yeah, 100%. It didn't feel like we were watching a show from the War Memorial or like a VFW.
But just like Friday Night SmackDown in comparison to AEW, next week things are going to be different. SmackDown's going to be in Las Vegas, so for the most part, it might not be entirely different, but AEW is going to be in Boston on Wednesday night at a smaller arena, not the 20,000. It's going to probably be about 5 or 6. WWE's going to be in Las Vegas. While it's still a big arena, it's not going to have the 30-minute pre-show. It's not going to have the celebrity sitting ringside. No. And in a few weeks, we talked about SmackDown's going to be in Buffalo, New York. Yep. AEW is going to be in Charleston, West Virginia. So while they both had big arenas, big crowds, big cities, things are going to start to simmer down for both of them, but the product has to stay pretty similar.
Yeah, the product's got to stay top-notch. I mean, and the best part is the real winner of this whole thing, wrestling fans.
Yes.
It's been a great week. I mean, they're literally everything I'm watching, even because a lot of it I'm watching on record because I'm DVRing certain things, and I'm watching wrestling like all week. It's been fun. I mean, there's a lot of good storylines, a lot of great matches. I'm really excited to see what happens. NXT was really good. There were some good matches there. So I mean, it was a good week.
I love that we had 3 shows WWE wise when it came to Raw, SmackDown, and Hell in a Cell. 3 different sets.
That was what I was wondering too. We were talking about that last week. Are we going to have similar sets or what? It was cool to see a little bit of a difference. I got to ask you.
I really love the SmackDown set, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
I really enjoy that set. I think it's unique. I love how tall it is. I don't. Obviously, it shows that WWE had the capability to be doing this all along. Don't come out here and say that. Well, the Fox money. They had the money. They just didn't want to put it out there.
And I'm glad you stole my thunder. I was going to say, what you think of SmackDown? Let me ask you this: what do you think of Raw? What did you think of that set?
Oh, the Raw set is okay. I think the Raw set is more of a traditional Raw set. I mean, it didn't seem to differentiate too much. I mean, the whole floor and the whole how the screen kind of curves up.
It's like a vert ramp.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool.
It's pretty unique. I noticed in front of the entranceway, obviously, when they were fighting last night in that last woman standing match between Lacey Evans and Natalya, that in front of the Raw announcers, it kind of like curves down and it says Raw right there.
Yeah, that was.
But
cool.
The SmackDown set looked. I mean, looked pretty top notch.
Yeah, it was.
That felt like a pay-per-view. I mean, I went to SummerSlam in Toronto, and that's supposed to be the second big show of the year, and SmackDown felt like WrestleMania.
Yeah, better set.
You have Vince coming out and introducing the crowd. You have the whole place sold out. You have the lights on so you can actually see that the place is full.
The pyro.
Love it. The celebrity sitting front row. It just had a big time feel. I mean, SummerSlam's a big event, but I mean, Friday night on Fox, WWE knows. I mean, they treat their pay-per-views big time, but not as big time as they treated as they were on Fox. I mean, they treated like they were trying to put on WrestleMania for the night in a TV show.
They pulled all the stops. That was great.
Yeah, you had The Rock lead off the show. I mean, that's why I felt like I went to SummerSlam and it just had the Raw set and it had the matches you're expecting. It didn't have Vince come out in front of a sold out crowd. It didn't have just that pomp and circumstance that SmackDown had. Like I said, he didn't have the appearance from The Rock come out and cut something that felt like I was watching one of the big 4 pay-per-views, essentially.
Yeah, and by the way, The Rock kills it as always. He did a hell of a job. Most electrifying man in sports entertainment. So that he did well. I mean, him and the man Becky Lynch, they played off each other pretty well. it's always good to see people picking on Baron Corbin. I like the new chant, STD, super tough dude. I like that. That's cool.
You know, I don't know if I'm on board with that one. I think that's a little lame for me.
I thought it was. I think it's hilarious. I think it's just perfect humor. I think it's great, and it was great because the fans carried it over to Monday Night Raw, and every time they, Baron Corbin was shown, they're, STD. It was. I think it's hilarious. I think The Rock did it again. I thought it was funny. I know it's kind of cheesy, but I'm okay with cheesy. The Rock did a great job with it, and if you could pick fun of Baron Corbin, that's always a plus.
So we're moving into the draft on SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. It won't take effect these upcoming. They'll just be doing the draft, so it'll probably still be everyone on every show. It won't be until the following SmackDown that you actually have the set roster. Do you see the world champions being moved at all?
I don't see those guys move. No, I don't see it.
So you see Lesnar on SmackDown and Seth Rollins staying on Raw?
Yes.
Maybe you get Seth Rollins over to SmackDown so we can pretend the whole Hell in a Cell thing. We can really put that under the rug. If we move Seth Rollins over.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, Fox wants Brock on SmackDown, so I think that's an obvious choice. I think Seth's going to stay on Raw. What does that mean though for like Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair? Do you think they're going to switch? I mean,
that's kind of straight. See, with at least the main titles, you have the names on them. Obviously, the Universal title is red, but it still has the name of Universal. While the Raw and the SmackDown Women's Champions are called Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions. So, I mean, they would literally have to just swap belts.
Yeah, I think they're kind of stuck. What do you think about the United States and the Intercontinental?
Those could switch because obviously they don't have a set tie. Those are interchangeable.
Do you think that's going to happen? You think that's an obvious swap?
Yeah, and you know what? Shinsuke right now, he's the Intercontinental Champion. I could see him moving over to Raw.
Do you think the OC all goes to SmackDown then?
The way that they're going, I think they would have to. I don't see why they would break this up at this time. They're pretty hot.
The OC's on fire, and I think Fox wants them on there too. I think they want to click.
Yeah, I see. I don't see a lot of people moving too much. I mean, I see Braun Strowman staying on Raw.
Yeah, I see. Yeah,
I see Brock obviously on SmackDown. I see maybe Kofi Kingston moving over to Raw. Get him away from Brock. I don't see obviously him being dethroning Brock anytime soon.
Do you think they move New Day, or do you think New Day? Do you think because the way they're kind of billing it recently is the Kofi's kind of on his own, and then New Day is
I'm not 100% sure what I feel that they would do with them, but I feel Rey Mysterio is going to stay on SmackDown and keep the Cain Velasquez thing going.
Yeah,
Cain Velasquez. More than just a one-off, joining the WWE.
Is the contract official? I know they were closing in.
I don't know if it's official, but it's just, I personally, when I watch it, I just thought it was a one-off. I had no idea that this was going to be, I just thought it was a thing for the Fox network. I didn't actually have a thing that there was going to be a storyline down the line with these things.
I read
like
rumors.
The Tyson Fury Braun Strowman actually having a match.
Yeah, I mean, I read rumors about Cain, Cain's interest, Cain Velasquez's interest in WWE. And before the show started, it was reported that they were closing in on a deal. It was kind of like, it was like 90% of the way there is what I read. So, I mean, it hasn't moved to 100% because I haven't seen anything. I also haven't read anything much today. I haven't read anything today, about the contract. So maybe the deal's done. The ink's just waiting to dry before they announce it.
So the one final thing I'll bring up this week, and this is a future headline. We won't have any time to know for sure because I'll probably say we're in currently 2019. I'll say a headline for 2021 is going to say, and you probably know where I'm going with this, Paige, your new WWE Raw or SmackDown Women's Champion.
You really think so?
Well, obviously you broke the news to me earlier this week that yet another retired forever wrestler looks like he's getting back in the ring.
But who Jared is talking about is Edge.
Yes.
I do want to report. I was reading some new reports that he's kind of backed off that stance. So I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting reports. Maybe here's the thing though. He could be playing. I mean,
I've heard he was cleared.
Yeah, I heard he was cleared too. So my thing is he doing this thing where he's saying, "Oh, I'm never coming back," and then just surprising the hell out of everybody, which would be kind of cool because then like you like. It's like a mystery, team member on like Survivor Series, and then like Edge's music hits, something like that, because that gives him enough time maybe to get himself ring ready because he's been rusty for a little while. So I mean, and he also got physical on the pre-show recently.
At SummerSlam, yes.
So that tells me if he's going to get physical enough.
I mean, and maybe it was him getting physical there that kind of did the click in his head.
He was like, "Oh, maybe I can do this," and then doctors. I mean, here's the thing. Daniel Bryan was not cleared forever. And we thought Daniel Bryan was never coming back. And he's back. I mean, now he's thinking about retiring again, but he still came back. So maybe, I'm not saying he's going to do a full run for like 5 years. I could see him doing maybe kind of like a Chris Jericho run that he used to do in WWE. Like come in and then, do a nice run for a few months and then gone. Or maybe like a Goldberg kind of deal. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see Edge full-time.
And after watching that Goldberg thing after Hell in a Cell was over, I have a feeling we're not even done with Goldberg yet. I feel there's more to be done with him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had a chance to watch it.
More than just Saudi Arabia too. I mean, actual
shows.
Yes.
Because I don't consider that a real show.
Yes, no. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about someone else maybe not being done in the ring. He's going to be leading one of the teams in Saudi Arabia, and he might have an actual match himself. We're not talking Ric Flair. We're talking his opponent, Hulk Hogan. He spoke about maybe one more match. We'll talk about maybe that next week. We'll talk about AEW, NXT, the second edition of AEW, the second edition of SmackDown, and Monday Night Raw as well, and how they're going to eventually come back from the Seth Rollins Bray Wyatt Hell in a Cell match. All of that and more next week's edition of the show. Thanks for joining us on this week's edition. For Brandon the Icebreaker Clement, you can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21, and myself at KRockJared. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast.